Peter Robinson is the president of USAID, our American member, and very active, very engaged in the IOE. But I also have to say that he was among the first ones who addressed me already when the pandemic, I would say, was starting, on an initiative we have to do also with persuading individuals to vaccinate. And at that moment, I was, frankly speaking, personally, I was a little bit surprised by the initiative when I heard about it, because I thought that at that moment, although we were not even having the vaccines, and the first thought that some people have is that once the vaccines are there, that will be to some extent, welcome by everybody. But the situation is much more complex. And in a country like the USA, where the respect for individual choices is very strong, and also the respect for privacy and confidentiality is also very strong. I mean, having an organization like USAID also very much engaged on an initiative which I think is quite relevant, and which, by the way, I also joined, also with some caveats, also I have to say. I think it was relevant, and we want, Peter, you to bring us also this experience, but for that also we have Susan Hogwood, who is the president of the Educational International. And thank you, Susan, because it's very late for you, you're in Australia. And the educational sector, I mean, is one of the most effective, but precisely all these measures on, not just on prevention, but specifically on vaccines, not vaccine, is especially relevant and tricky to deal with also from the workers' perspective, the trade union perspective. So I would like both of you to give us the insights on how you're dealing with that on your national capacity, and also, Peter, on your global capacity, because you're very also active in IOE, before we move forward, and also from the international trade union perspective, because it's very important also that we go together with the workers. Yes, okay. So Peter, you have the floor.
Well, thanks very much, Roberto, for including me, and I really appreciate hearing the views of Sumya and Guy on facts and dilemmas that we face. I think it goes without saying that employers feel an urgent need to get back to work and reboot our economies, but that it's going to take all social partners working together to ensure that we do that in as quick and safe and responsible a way as possible. So I fully support, for one, Guy's suggestion on tripartite dialogue. As an employer representative, I can say that the defining moment came for me about a year ago when the Edelman Trust Barometer revealed that employers, not big business, but employers in general, were felt by employees to be one of the most trusted messengers of information on COVID response. And so it was then that I and we as employers realized that we not only have a special role to play, but a real responsibility in vaccine literacy and COVID response and rebuilding. And we've been stepping up with action and programs, but I will get into our business partners to convince in a bit, but I thought it might be helpful to hear a little bit about what's happening in my home country as well. Globally, nearly 3 out of 4 people say they're willing to take the COVID vaccine, but we have yet to reach that goal in the US and still have a long way to go globally. Regrettably in the US, recent data actually shows a drop in the willingness to be vaccinated over the past year compared to an increase in many other countries. A year ago, 3 out of 4 Americans were willing to be vaccinated. That's now dropped to 2 out of 3. And we can also see what an interesting phenomenon that could be interpreted to be a political impact on messaging, because we've got a divide between blue states like California and those in the Northeast, like, my state, Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, Maine, Massachusetts, et cetera, where the unvaccinated rate is around 30%. And red states like Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, Alabama, Florida, where the unvaccinated rate is around 60%. So there's a huge difference there. So ironically, in a world where many people are waiting impatiently for delivery of and access to vaccines that they are eager to take but don't have yet, in the US, we have a situation where the refusal or hesitancy to be vaccinated with available vaccines has kind of slowed us down on the road to recovery. So I think that goes back to the importance of messaging and the responsibility of employers to get out there in front on that. And we've also seen, as Guy mentioned, employers beginning to take matters into their own hands, like United Airlines, which just laid off several hundred staff who refused to be vaccinated by their compliance deadline. But on the other side of the equation, 99% of United's employees now have received at least one shot. And another case, another recent case is Tyson Foods. Back in August, they put in a vaccine requirement at a time when only half of their employees were vaccinated. Now 91% of their employees are vaccinated. And as you may have heard, in the US, President Biden recently announced a vaccine requirement for companies of 100 or more workers. So there will be new Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, rules requiring them to ensure workers are vaccinated or tested weekly for COVID-19. I think generally, while there have been fears of a mass exodus of people quitting and not returning to work, preliminary results show that people are following suit, trusting their employer and government and getting vaccinated and returning to work to protect health and safety and liberty. And following up on the comment by Sumya before, we've seen recent surveys showing that the public generally supports employers who are working to protect society by requiring vaccination as a condition of entry to work, such as United and Tyson Foods. And this is in sync with global efforts supporting governments to provide equitable vaccination access so that no one gets left behind. Roberto mentioned a specific program that we've been involved in with IOE's support. Last year, the USCIB Foundation and USCIB, with the support of its global affiliates, including IOE, established something called Business Partners to Convince, or BP2C, which is an initiative designed to encourage and support employers worldwide in making the case for vaccination once vaccines are available, and to counter misinformation and hesitancy. We've been joined by a number of international and national employer organizations and now have a coalition of about 25 business networks, and have received some significant financial support from leading global companies in our membership. And I'd like to take the opportunity to express special thanks for the support of IOE, whose role is and will be especially critical given its extensive range of employer organization members, particularly as vaccines become more available in developing countries. To build momentum for a global movement among companies, both large and small, to take up the challenge society faces from a global pandemic, BP2C launched the Global COVID-19 Workplace Challenge, which asks employers to publicly commit to the following 6 actions. 1, listen to my employer's needs and concerns about the impact and prevention of COVID-19. 2, follow the latest public health guidance to protect myself, my employees, my workplace, my customers, and my community from COVID-19. 3, promote vaccine literacy based on the latest scientific evidence of vaccine benefits and risks. 4th, encourage vaccine confidence and uptake. 5th, advocate for accessible, equitable, and timely vaccination of employees. And lastly, engage with communities, schools, faith-based organizations, and public health leaders to stop the spread of COVID-19. The challenge is supported by the BP2C website, where employers can access fact-based information, case studies, toolkits, social media messaging, and videos to help build out strategies to counter misinformation and promote vaccine literacy among their workforces. And obviously, we realize that the message about confidence and convincing is really only applicable once there is vaccine availability. But we hope that will be taking a greater hold as soon as possible everywhere. So looking ahead as the debate on credentials, passports, verification schemes, and other ideas advance, we continue to support efforts to strategically engage business and government bodies to effectively communicate to build vaccine confidence and help galvanize support for renormalizing a COVID-protected world. We're hoping for a robust recovery in 22, but if we don't work together to advance vaccine access, literacy, and uptake globally, we could face barriers for building back better. But I remain convinced we can find a way with business employers and the private sector helping to forge the way forward with our efforts such as this event, but in collaboration with our social partners. Thanks, and be willing to answer any other questions on this initiative we've done. Thanks.